Greetings, science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts, and welcome to our podcast. With Ryan Sean O'Reilly, David Wilkinson, and Richard Mell. You're listening to No Deodorant in Outer Space. Now, let's get started.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another podcast-tastic episode of No Deodorant in Outer Space. My name is Ryan Sean O'Reilly, and I'll be hosting you on this second part of our adventure. Joining me again is Richard Mell.
Hello, boys and girls.
Welcome back, Rick.
Welcome back.
And also is Dave Wilkinson. How are you doing today?
I just want to kill. I just want to
kill, crush, destroy.
Everything.
Kill it.
You sound frustrated.
I'm fine.
Okay. We, of course, are back for the second half of our episode where we covered The Lair, the White Worm, which was written by Bram Stoker and came out in 1911. In this half of the show, we will be covering a movie of the same name that came out in 1988 and was directed by Ken Russell and starred Amanda Donohoe and also Hugh Grant. So this is the movie portion of the show. And does anyone have any opening comments before we kick into the show proper?
Well, go ahead.
Rick, you made some kind of text message earlier about having an
mentioned
opening statement.
Oh, I heard manifesto. I read that as manifesto.
Oh.
Go on.
Either way, let's hear it.
You guys want to hear my opening comments?
Yes.
You
yes,
texted
we do.
us like all proud of yourself.
Oh, he's a tease. He's being coy. Yes, sir. We want to hear the opening comments.
Never have I witnessed a finer representation of the English aristocratic spirit than when it was exploded from her bowels over the heart of Mercia. Bravo!
What? Say that one more time. I think I missed it.
Why do all your opening statements have the word bowels in them?
Yeah, you're talking over. Wilk, just let him go.
Just let it go. You guys destroyed my rhythm, and I just want to get on with
No,
the
go
show.
ahead. Go ahead. Let's hear you.
You have no rhythm.
All right.
White man.
Never have I witnessed a finer representation of the English aristocratic spirit than when it exploded from her bowels over the heart of Mercia. Bravo!
Okay.
Bowels.
Very. You always go right for the aristocrats. They can't get any breaks from you, Mel.
The aristocrats are where it's at.
He hates aristocrats.
Yeah, he's made that abundantly clear. Dave, do you have any opening comments, or do we want to just let things lie there?
I got an opening comment.
Right.
I mean, it's not written out, but I'm just saying it's refreshing to see a movie made by a British person who hates British cinema as much as I do. And I love Ken Russell, and really, I want to watch more films that he's made, and I think we should devote this podcast from here on out to watching Ken Russell movies and discussing his life.
You want to change this to the No Deodorant in Ken Russell podcast?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Absolutely fine.
I guess for my opening comment, I'm just going to say this movie is a smidge of strange in an otherwise commonplace monster horror film. So I'll leave things at that for myself. As I stated earlier, this movie was directed by Ken Russell, a very, I guess, renowned director in English cinema. Wilk, you're going to give us a bio and background on Mr. Russell. So let's hear it.
Well, as I said before, Russell was English, and I'll let my esteemed co-host decide if he is an aristocrat or not. But he was born in the 1920s, late 1920s. His father was an abusive drunk who abused him and would often abuse his mother. I'm not.
He was an aristocrat.
Yeah.
Rick's still caught on aristocrats.
Like most aristocrats, he was abused profoundly on a regular basis by his father. So he would find escapism in movies and in literature and in dime store novels and things like that. And he kind of he also he had two brothers, and the idea of sexuality was discussed frequently with them in the way that only three brothers can, such as penis jokes and oogly girls, and a lot of that early childhood has manifested itself in his works, because Ken Russell emerged as a director who would basically find a semblance of a well-written classical story that appeared respectable, and then put something on film that had the barest trace to that, but was so provocative. I mean, and provocative isn't the word, not that bullshit provocative people use to describe the latest breath freshener or some bullshit in the Huffington Post. He was offensive to people. He truly pushed boundaries in the 60s and 70s. he was the king of the 70s. And he made a string of movies in the 70s that sickened and delighted people, probably at the same time. And then
he tried to make that kind of sick stuff mainstream, though, right? Because, I mean, all that stuff, I mean, it existed from the beginning of time, but he just kind of tried to get it into theaters.
I mean, he reminds me of maybe a heterosexual version and a British version of John Waters, a director that I absolutely love over here, who kind of does the same thing, who can make a movie that's both perverse and sweet, and these two should have collaborated at some point, but they did not in their career. Anyways.
I like that. Yeah, I like that balance. Perverse and sweet.
Hey, that's John Waters, I'd say, though. I mean, his movies are very sentimental and ethical, and at the same time, they might have somebody eating some dog shit.
Right.
But it works. So this guy, I mean, lots of nudity, lots of overtly sexual themes, and perverse in the sense that incest kind of ran through them. Maybe the thought of non-consensual sex, but a lot more towards the man than the woman in this case, is the one being raped. God bless him. And later on in his career, he began to act in movies and took some minor roles and bit roles. But he was a great man who would take lesser pieces of literature, lesser known ones, and just put some flair on things. And really, one of my favorite films that he made was the 1975 rock opera Tommy, which just, God, I think this movie jump-started puberty for me when I saw it as a 10 or 11-year-old. I mean, Anne Margaret just rolling around the floor, covered in paint, screaming, Tina Turner with her legs, saying, oh my God, like the Acid Queen.
Oh God.
This guy, he's everything I love about 70s film.
Eric Clapton in the church, come on.
Yeah, I fucking hate Eric Clapton. That guy's an asshole, but
he's got his moments, but generally like it.
He fucked his best friend's wife and wrote a hit song about it.
You know what, man? No one ever thinks about how George Harrison could have possibly just kind of tipped him off and said, you know what? She's up for grabs. Go after her. I'll let it happen.
Okay. And then I hope in the future we'll review one of his movies called Altered States, which is based on a book that I've never heard of.
It's a sci-fi.
Which I've never seen the movie. Yeah, it's his only sci-fi venture. And, God. Oh, I know what I was going to say. He was not a fan of the BBC format, the way it presented movies and cinema. And he spent his whole career kind of going away from that mold of like static cameras and like, kind of stiff dialogue. And again, you would never guess this guy is British based on his movies because they're just fantastic. And it had a lasting influence.
Shout out the British again from David Wilkinson, coming from the back.
And they're aristocrats too. Those British limey fuckers with their pointy mustaches and haberdashes and tea parties.
Double chins.
Jude Law, more like Jude Bra.
You bring up the BBC, Wilk, and when I was checking him out
every time I can.
I think it's important to note that Ken Russell, well, he was such a into cinema that I think what he talked about when during his early days, his parents had a projector. It was like a little projector for showing shorts, and he realized he can get an extension arm for it and got... Oh, wait, no, I'm confusing that story with someone else. Never mind. But he had a projector early on, and he was showing movies in his garage, and he, I think, started playing music to them, classical music, and he saw how the music fit with the movies real well. Later in life, that served him real well when he did work for the BBC, doing a lot of documentary sort of bio pieces on famous composers and their lifestyle.
How does the BBC, highbrow, British Broadcasting Corporation, ask this guy, John Russell?
Ken Russell, that's what we're talking about right
Ken
now.
Russell, to do movies based on these classical composers. I mean, isn't that all highbrow stuff? Didn't Ken Russell
this is how his career got started.
Drag himself through the mud quite a bit before he was asked to kind of do that kind of stuff?
No, this is how he got started, though, in the BBC.
But he came back to the BBC.
Yeah, eventually.
It was always kind of like his lowest, in quotations, lowest common denominator,
Well, but he got a lot of recognition for these films, and one of the innovations he did, which seems quite obvious now, was they would make these documentaries about, famous people. They would always use still photos, and he said to him, why can't I use some like live actors to reenact some of these scenes of these composers? And he got all kinds of hell from the producers there who were like, we can't have an actor because that's not the real person. And so he convinced them to like let him do like a far shot so you couldn't see the actor's face, and then they could do reenactments that way. And he had to keep pushing them to actually, make these documentaries more interesting by having, reenactments and stuff. But he's really into classical music. Huge. He got his mark early on for making these films.
Go ahead, Will.
And Wilkie, you mentioned earlier that that
Ryan, shut up.
He pissed
shut
people
up.
off.
Ryan, shut up. Okay, Ryan, you're monologuing. Stop. I just want to point out what you just said about the documentaries was the first time in the history of the show that you actually gave us interesting fact. Thank you. That was really, I didn't know that. That was really interesting.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Good job.
Oh.
Do it again.
Oh, thanks. Well, but I also want to piggyback on what you said, Wilk, that he pissed people off. He made a documentary about one of these composers. I think it was Strauss.
I did not say that earlier. I did not. I didn't even mention that. No.
Well, you said he really pissed people off, and that was one in particular.
He pissed off the Strauss family.
Yeah. Do you know about that story, Rick? Tell the story on the Strauss thing.
Okay, well, Strauss. Richard Strauss. The Strauss family, I think, sued the movie The Devil because he portrayed...
No, not The Devil.
Not The Devil?
No, it was a movie about Strauss.
It was a movie about Strauss, but I think it had the name Devil in it.
No, he has a famous movie called The Devils.
Okay, it was called something else. But
Yeah.
the family has kept the movie from being distributed for a long time because Strauss is portrayed in like this SS uniform, beating up a Jewish guy, and he's laughing and like he's just being evil, I guess.
And they're playing his music over it.
And they're playing his music. But, you know, he always is kind of out there to touch a nerve, you know?
Strauss's widow was able to, she revoked the licensing on that movie for the music.
Well, you know, it's called Dance of the Seven Veils is what it was called.
Was it?
Okay. So they couldn't use the music. And so in essence, I think it was broadcast once and it's never been broadcast again because...
It's being broadcast right now on my computer. It's on YouTube.
Well, then the internet.
Would you guys say he was like the last shock sort of director as opposed to shock jock? He's a shock director.
I mean, I guess shock. I mean, I don't know. Have you seen a Serbian film? That's what I think of as a shock director or Martyrs or something like that. I mean, to me, he was like pushing good taste in a sense, but he wasn't doing stuff just to be shocking. I think he had a certain flair that he brought to his work that made it worth watching. It wasn't just shock for shock value.
I saw that in the Lair of the White Worm movie for sure. I mean, there was a high level of energy even when, you know, some of the shocking scenes, you know, were not rolling on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that had a fun tone to it, though. I mean, it was kind of watching Caligula a little bit. I mean, it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't exploiting things in the sense that I felt like they were trying to make us believe these things were happening. It was a fun, far out, bizarre movie.
Not like Porky's fun, though. Not like Porky's fun.
Not like Porky. Well, frankly, this guy should have remade Porky's. That would have been a hell of a take on that genre.
This movie he made this movie because he wanted to make another movie. And I think they gave him a 4-picture deal and said, if you make us a horror film, we'll let you make a sequel to, he had a movie, I think that was a hit based on a D.H. Lawrence novel. And he wanted to make a prequel to it maybe. And they said, we'll let you do that if you make a horror film for us. And so that's how this movie came to be.
And, okay, so he was into classical composers and classical music. And it was during his...
And ballet.
It was during his time in the Navy, I believe. I think he was in some kind of... Maybe he was taking punishment or I think he was sick. And the entire time he couldn't move. And listening to Franz Liszt kind of brought him into the light and kind of out of the darkness, I guess. But, he loved Franz Liszt so much that after Tommy, he did another rock opera called Listomania.
Yeah.
And if you're a big Franz Liszt fan, you should check it out. I want to check it out because, I mean, the music seems like it runs parallel to Ken Russell's personality. It's cartoonish, you know, and
he did it with Daltrey again, right?
I'm not sure what you're
getting
at there.
The Who, the singer for the Who.
Daltrey?
Yeah.
He did,
possibly,
yes. Yeah.
Roger Daltrey,
yes.
he played Liszt, right?
Daltrey did?
That's what I thought.
Okay. Well.
I think he brought Daltrey. It was like after Tommy, so he brought Daltrey back for this movie.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. How about it?
There you go, folks. And that's Ken Russell. So, if no one has anything else to add about Mr. Russell, or does anyone have anything they want to throw in at the end here?
He looks like Rumpelstiltskin sometimes.
I'd say Captain Kangaroo.
Like, as you would picture Rumpelstiltskin. Captain Kangaroo?
Or yeah.
In some photos, it seems like he just kind of crawled out of the corner and just started, you know, weaving gold from yarn or something.
You know, at the end, you know, he had kind of he had his height of fame where he even was directing Hollywood movies, and then, you know, he kind of
he lost favor with
them. He lost favor, and in the end, he was such a lover of making movies that I think he was filming them in his backyard.
Guys,
and people would stop over,
do you know why?
And he would be like, "Oh, do you want to come in and make a movie with me?"
That's awesome.
Do you know why he lost favor with Hollywood? Do you know what he did that made him lose favor?
He got in a fight with
Not particularly. Sounds like
he got in a fight with someone.
He got in a physical fight with somebody, but what really got him going, it was Richard Gere that got him in trouble because he released a movie called Whore at the same after Pretty Woman came out, and it got an NC-17 rating. And he went on a rant about how come Pretty Woman gets an R rating when our movies are basically about the same thing. and then he called out Richard Gere as, some kind of like, I forget what it was, but it angered the studio that was Pretty Woman, and like Richard Gere, who was Julia Roberts, basically went on a rant about him, and he was blackballed from Hollywood after that.
Yeah, because I think he tried to say that his portrayal of prostitutes was more realistic or something.
More realistic, sure.
Yeah.
But if he said anything about, Julia Roberts and how she was particularly trashy and Pretty Woman, then,
it's great. Yeah. He basically called her a whore.
Yeah, right.
Which and again, just in his own mind, he wasn't even convinced he was right. I gotta imagine he knew he was talking out of his ass, but like, horror is just this graphic, shooting up heroin, lying in the gutter,
horror,
horrible movie about prostitutes. Pretty Woman's a sweet romantic comedy.
Kind of like Bad Lieutenant, A Port of Call, New Orleans, that kind of thing.
It's gritty. It's a gritty movie.
That just kind of gives all detectives a bad name. Yeah, right. Gritty, exactly. Werner Herzog directed Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. One of the best movies ever.
Wasn't that a remake?
And talk about gritty, that's it. It's a remake from Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, it's not one of the best movies ever. It's one of the worst movies ever. It's got Nicolas Cage in it.
Oh, I love it. I love Nicolas Cage.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, well, if you love Nicolas Cage, then I can say you like the movie, but like it didn't. I mean, it was just a cheap remake of a classic movie. I mean, I don't know.
I don't like Harvey Keitel.
He doesn't like you.
He ruined that movie, and Werner Herzog fixed it.
Yeah. Okay. You're high.
No.
Okay. All right. Oh
boys. My God, you're getting dirty.
I think we're done with Mr. Russell. So why don't we move on to the movie? And Rick, you're going to give us a sort of synopsis of this movie and any like the major differences. This movie is pretty different than the book. He draws from it very loosely.
Yeah,
definitely right. Not. And I mean, and as we, we kind of covered the book. Well, obviously we covered the book in the last episode. It might be difficult to kind of create a movie out of this without going your own way.
Yeah, I don't think any of the characters from the book translate very well to Ken Russell's movie. He made the Lord of the Manor, Castle Regis. He gave him a different name. He should have, because it wasn't really like the same disturbed air to...
He kind of made him a good guy.
The Caswell name, Hugh Grant played the role. He was very fun-loving, never really seemed to have a bad bone in his body. He needed to make the movie a little bit more sexy and commercial and shit. So Hugh Grant's easy, but Hugh Grant can't do Edgar Caswell. So Hugh Grant took another role, basically. But he was sort of playing that role.
Yeah.
Lady Arabella's role, that was watered down, I believe. And no, it wasn't watered down. It was made a little bit more extreme. I mean, that's kind of like his fingerprint, Ken Russell's.
Yeah.
He took Lady Arabella instead of making her some kind of, I wouldn't say petite and proper with all of the English noble etiquette you can think of, but it's not exactly how she was portrayed in the story. But she was far like that compared to Ken Russell's version.
She's probably the closest of well, maybe not the closest, but she's closer to the book, obviously.
Yeah, she is closer. But I think she's a bit more extreme. She's pornographic for crying out loud.
It's great.
Unless you have no problem with porno, Ryan, then I guess she's okay. She's fine.
Well, she didn't like shoot any mongooses in the face like in the book.
That would have been a great scene, but instead of doing that, Adam Salton's character, he threw the mongoose in like a booth so that you can just imagine what went on in there, and the mongoose came out just completely
the important
grizzled.
Thing is, they kept a mongoose for all those loyal Lair the White Worm book readers. They kept the mongoose.
So they didn't even bother, or Ken Russell didn't even bother to explain the mongoose. All of a sudden, it just pops up in like a scene in the middle of the movie, like he's already using the mongoose to figure out if someone is a worm or not, or if someone's a snake. Crazy. Just crazy. Will, what do you think about that?
So go on. Well, Rick, go on. Finish your summary here.
There's the characters change quite a bit. And obviously, Ken Russell puts another fingerprint of his on the story, and he's not really looking to put his name on this thing. He is looking to express himself, but he had inserted a couple of scenes where as soon as people in the movie come in contact with snake venom, they start hallucinating, and some of the hallucinations are extremely, they're just epically kind of NC-17. They would never, ever be shown in any movie theater in this country. And because it's like nuns getting raped and, nudity along with that, and Jesus Christ on the cross, and he's getting, molested by a snake. And it's It's just absolute horror. It's terrible. Just terrible. But
that's I think that's Ken Russell shining through in this movie.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie
Definitely.
I think is a lot more tame, except for those bits where they have the like hallucinations or the hypnotic episodes.
Sure, the hypnotic episodes. Yeah.
Although I don't know, maybe his other stuff
They don't really stick out that much.
Maybe there's a bit of campiness to this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe you were pointing that out.
Werewolf in London kind of thing.
So maybe that does run in some of his other movies. I'm not sure. But the plot essentially is there's a professor guy who I think takes the place of Sir Nathaniel. Or he's supposed to take the place of Adam Salt, maybe the main character. And he's digging in the area and he finds a skull. It's like essentially like a dragon skull. And they're like, "What's this about?" And they put it away. They're going to figure out what it is later. And then they're going to go to a party at the big mansion or castle. And that's where they run into Hugh Grant. And he's the ancestor of some famous person who killed a dragon in the area. And then after this ball dance kind of thing, the main character is walking one of the girls home and she explains how her parents went missing in the area. And then you start to have this Lady Marsh character played by Amanda Donohoe come in and start kind of snooping around. And she's like a priestess for this snake entity. It's like a god, right? And she's looking for, to feed it. And they have some kind of crazy scenes with her and they somehow figure it out. And they spend the rest of the movie like trying to, I guess, destroy her.
Great synopsis.
Well, I mean, go ahead, fill in the blanks wherever I left out.
I don't know. I mean, Wilk, you suggested we watch this movie. Come on.
What?
Help us out here. I mean,
what about it?
I didn't particularly like the movie. I didn't really remember it very well.
Jump in, Wilk. You're dragging your feet. Come on. This was your pick. Let's go.
I know you guys try and compare it to the book, and it's just so irritating. I mean, the book was gibberish.
Now's your chance to shine. Let's hear it.
One continuum of clairvoyance.
Come on, Rick. Let him go. Wilk.
Come on, Wilk.
What?
Give it to us. Give it to us.
Give you what?
We're ready.
What?
Come on. You're dragging your feet here. Let's hear it. What's your thoughts on the movie?
It's a great movie.
Why?
It's got tits and special effects that are practical and death and sex, and a woman has made out of a devil's horn and somebody with it. What more do you need in a movie? It's great.
That's all you needed, huh?
I wish every movie had a woman take a devil's horn. But yeah, name one movie that would improve. For example, Pretty Woman. That classic scene where he like snaps that box on her finger. What if instead of laughing, she took out a giant and then Richard Gere with it?
It's because
it's a better movie. It's a better movie.
Pretty Woman is the tale of the modern American princess, the Republican princess, someone who knows how to pull herself up by the bootstraps.
It's about the modern tale of the modern American aristocrat.
The aristocrats are everywhere, and they're haberdashers.
No, Wilk, you're besides these in-your-face special effects that you're such a fan of. What they're practical effects, of course, which I know you like.
How are they practical?
Well, they're not using CGI.
That's what they're called.
Oh, tangible, sure.
No, they're called practical effects.
I call them tangible effects.
Yeah, good. Okay, go on.
What other parts did you like about the movie besides that? I mean, did you like Hugh Grant, the acting, the tone of the movie? It is kind of campy, wouldn't you say, or do you disagree with?
I feel like I've already answered this question. Yeah, it's about a giant worm and a sex-crazed demon that's trying to feed people to the worm, and there's just sex and murder throughout the whole movie.
How is this movie campy, though?
Well, I mean, it's over the top, I guess. I mean,
yeah, the over the top.
Well, without the hallucinogenic scenes, how would it be campy?
Well, look at the scene where she's got like a Boy Scout.
They only take up 4 minutes of the movie.
She's got a Boy Scout. It comes to her door, and she puts him in a hot tub and seduces him. And she's like painted blue, and she's naked. And I mean, it's over the top. Like,
what kind of camps were you going to? No, I mean, yeah, I can see why Rick would say it's not campy. I can see why you'd say it's campy. It's just an awesome ball of movie, though, man. It's just fun to sit down and watch it and see what happens inside your head.
Fun for the whole family. No, not really.
No, you really shouldn't watch it with your family now.
Shouldn't, no.
Did you like Hugh Grant in it, Will?
No, I fucking hate Hugh Grant. I hate him in real life. I hate him in this movie.
He was beautiful. Come on, Wilk, admit it.
No, I mean, Hugh Grant was just a placeholder.
I mean, he just had a glow about him.
I guess.
Well, then who did you think?
That's why he was made Lord of the Manor.
Who did you think did the best performance in this movie?
The worm?
The worm.
The chick did the best performance. Whatever the fuck her name was.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
Lady Marsh.
Yeah,
Lady Marsh.
Why are you even asking who had the best performance? Are you a heterosexual man? What the fuck? Did I like
Hugh Grant? The first time you ever posed that question. Who gave the best performance?
Well, I'm trying to engage Will.
Should we do this
all
like
like
every month?
lackluster?
Yeah, he does.
He's all lackluster.
Yeah, you're right.
How am I lackluster? We're talking about and horn.
Yeah, I know, but
That's
You're not
lackluster.
getting excited enough about
yeah,
it.
you're not getting worked up enough about it. You were more worked up on the preview episode.
I was the one that was worked
Well,
up.
you guys are just kind of ruining. You guys are, yeah. Well, you guys are being kind of retarded. So I'm just letting you talk.
I got worked up.
Well, we're
admit.
doing a show here, Will. We have to actually say more than one sentence about these
I
things.
got worked up to the point where I was just let down when I saw the movie because I thought the whole movie would be like that.
Yeah, I would.
And I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rick. I thought this was going to be more crazy than it was. It definitely had these crazy scenes like you talked about, the one you described. But other than that, it wasn't real crazy.
Yeah. Well,
I kind of expected a little bit more craziness from it. I know Roger Ebert, I think, had a quote on this saying this is a solid B-grade horror film.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
and I think that's pretty apt.
he's right on. Ebert is
Yeah.
on, dude. I should be
Yeah.
reading the Siskel comments though as well, just to compare. I mean, I think Ebert was the better critic,
They're both dead.
but I think we should start bringing in Gene for crying out loud. I mean, he is he's a graduate of Culver Academies for crying out loud.
Oh.
Mm.
Uh-oh. No, so, I mean, I thought the movie was kind of campy, interesting, but it wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be from what I knew of it. It is better than the book, in my opinion.
I think the book doesn't even count as a book, in my opinion.
You should just
That's
treat
fair.
them as two separate entities, as I do. Just if everyone just did what I did, the whole world would be better.
Yeah, if everyone just does what you do, then we'd all be
would
better off.
fit.
There'd be no
There'd be less.
aristocrats.
Well,
there'd be no
the
aristocrats.
oil industry, all of the fucking air would be clean. You could see the stars at night. That's what
Yeah,
be going
yeah,
on.
you're like you're
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, they are separate entities, but we compare those separate entities on this show. That's the whole idea. So we compare the book and the movie, see which one we like better. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, the comparison is inevitable. That's why we pick books turned into movies. Otherwise, we wouldn't. We just pick a different book and a different movie.
Or we could do like a book and a vegetable next time. We could review a vegetable and review a book.
Yeah.
And really no correlation.
It'd have to be the same vegetable.
Frankly.
We'd have to mail it to each other.
This book was good, but I preferred the sauerkraut. Pickled vegetables.
All right, I think
In
we've hit our mark here. So why don't we just go around and give our final comments? Let's go to you first, Wilk. Your final comments and your star rating for this movie.
Are we at our final comments already?
Well, I mean, it seems like no one else has anything else to say.
Why? You just said that. We were all talking.
You just kind of cut it off.
Well, you guys are. What else do you want to say about the movie? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, now it's awkward. We're talking, and then you make this bold proclamation that we're done talking.
Okay, look, this is why the movie kind of pissed me off. All right,
Okay. All right.
that geologist who took the place of Adam Sultan was not at all Adam Sultan, right? He was just kind of like this the guy with the glasses, the curly hair, the Scot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he died, so I mean.
Well,
But
yeah.
the Adam Sultan character was kind of like nothing. He didn't really have a big
Yeah, I
personality.
mean, guys, it's all nothing. It's all nothing. That's the joke. The book is, you can't
Well-
I mean, okay, first of all, was there a kite? You guys were very excited about the kite in the book. How did you feel about the lack of a kite in this movie?
Quite frankly, I didn't like it.
Ryan, I'm surprised you didn't bring that up.
Well, I didn't want to have to, but I didn't like that there wasn't a kite.
It's
Okay.
but again,
If you guys want to
Ryan,
ask my opinion about
you
the
make a
kite,
good point.
I didn't like there was not a kite. It's probably going to hurt the rating that I give the movie.
Oh my god.
When-
Okay, this
when
is
has
why
a-
the rating hurts for me. The geologist was kind of like this working class Scot who was unassuming and sort of like the extreme protagonist of the movie. Adam Sultan is an heir to a manor that his uncle gives to him, and it just sort of extends and exercises the entire aristocratic and noble pathway that you must take in order to get further in life, which I hate.
But Rick,
he's-
Hugh Grant filled that in.
Yeah,
Hugh Grant filled that part.
But he's right.
Well, yeah, sure.
Ryan, you and I are both sick of these people inheriting castles from their uncles and acting like they can just run the show. It's gotta end. And when Donald Trump gets elected, he's gonna show those aristocrats who's boss. Ain't no aristocrats in Trump Tower. Trump ain't got no nephews. Nephew.
Girl,
You guys are so into Trump.
I'm not into
Well.
Trump. I'm just voting for him.
Really?
You got to go anti-establishment. If the nominee is Hillary Clinton of the Democratic Party, you got to go Trump. I mean, you have to go anti-establishment.
Do you?
You heard it. You heard it here first.
Yeah, this is how democracy dies. Yay.
Well,
So,
oh well.
no, Rick, go on with your point about the aristocrats, and I mean, I feel like Hugh Grant filled that aspect of the book. I mean,
Well,
he came in as the heir of the Hampton.
Well,
whatever.
I think instead of having two antagonists like the book kind of did, even though the book shined more of a light on Adam Salton as a protagonist, but I saw him as an antagonist in parallel with Edgar Caswell because he was illegitimate. I mean, he just basically was born on third base and he thought he had a triple. Okay. So they were both exercising their powers, not naturally given, do you want to
give credit for that line that born on third base? Who was the person that said that originally? Is it the governor of Texas about George Bush?
The third base. I don't know who said that first, but someone said it about, I think it's just a cliche, and it's to the point, that's why I used it.
Well, you are right, Rick. That is missing. In the book, it did have like a sort of a battle of the stare-off contest.
The stare-off contest. The snooping and the consulting between Sir Nathaniel.
The staring contests were ridiculous. The book was ridiculous. You cannot possibly.
The best part of the book was the consulting scenes between Sir Nathaniel and Adam Salton.
The consulting scenes.
I mean, Ken Russell.
Those were consulting scenes too. Those were totally consulting scenes.
Jesus Christ!
I'm a consultant by profession, guys.
The book was a steaming pile of a sick man who was just writing random paragraphs and some survivor jumbled them together.
I'd rather take that than some bound and determined asshole who just wants to get to celebrity status. Okay. I'd rather
Me too.
I
agree because that's what we're talking about. We're debating
Rick,
this.
Rick, I have a question for you. We didn't get the staring contests
or
the kite,
but we did get these hypnotic things where when they touched certain things, they had the flashes of the crazy scenes. Yeah. Do you think that
wasn't hypnosis?
Was adequate?
That was just
it was playing off of that
pathological reaction to some kind of poison, dude. It wasn't hypnosis. I don't think the movie gave any kind of wink or a nod
I thought it was possession.
Mesmerism or hypnosis.
I thought it was possession that happened.
Yeah, I think you might have a point there, Will.
Yeah, they did have a vampire thing going. We didn't